Jinwoo dragged himself through the escape pod's hatch. Behind him, Hana pulled in 2 more wounded team members. Of the 50 who'd entered the Eternal Ascendancy, only 20 made it to the pods. Captain Hyun wasn't among them. "Launch now," Jinwoo shouted. The pod blasted away from the dying flagship. Through the viewport, they watched as explosions tore through the massive vessel. The quantum charges had done their work, but it was the virus that delivered the killing blow. On what remained of the Eternal Ascendancy's bridge, War Master Thexanar watched his command fall apart. Every screen showed critical failures. Life support failing. Weapons offline. Navigation destroyed. And worst of all, the central AI was broadcasting something across the entire Dominion network. "What is that transmission?" he demanded. His communication officer, one of the few still alive, looked at him with wide eyes. "Sir, it's everything. Every war crime we've committed, every species we've enslaved, every lie we told. It's going out to all Dominion worlds." Thexanar felt ice in his veins. He pulled up the transmission on his personal screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. The humans had recorded everything. Images of burning planets, testimonies from enslaved species, footage of Dominion soldiers killing civilians, records of tribute collected from starving worlds. Everything the Dominion had hidden for 12,000 years was now public knowledge, and in the middle of it all, a human woman spoke directly to the camera. "Ambassador Minji Park, people of the galaxy," she said. "You've been told the Dominion brings order and peace. This is a lie. They bring death and slavery. We are humanity of Earth, and we refuse to accept this. We call on all free beings in the galaxy to rise up. We call on all enslaved species to remember that you deserve better. We offer our friendship to any who want freedom instead of tyranny." The message ended, but it was already spreading. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, people saw the truth for the first time. On the Velarin homeworld, crowds gathered in the capital city. They'd lived under Dominion rule for 3 generations, never questioning it because they'd been told it was necessary. Now they knew the truth. Riots broke out within hours on Zethros Prime, a mining colony where workers died by the thousands every year. The slaves rose up against their Dominion overseers. On Carathian Station, the military garrison that had enforced Dominion law for centuries found itself under siege by the very people it was supposed to protect. The galaxy was burning, and it had all started with one human message. Thexanar knew he was dying. The ship was breaking apart around him, but with his last breath he opened a channel to his second-in-command who was on another ship. "The humans," he gasped. "They're not primitives. They're warriors. Tell the Council. Tell them we underestimated Earth." Then the Eternal Ascendancy exploded. The flagship that had led Dominion conquest for 3,000 years died in a flash of light that could be seen across the solar system. The Dominion fleet, suddenly without central coordination, fell into chaos. Ship captains who'd always followed orders from above now had to think for themselves. Some tried to continue the attack. Others pulled back to defensive positions. A few simply turned and fled. Jiwan saw the confusion and acted immediately. "All ships attack now. Hit them while they're disorganized." Earth's remaining forces, joined by warships from Mars and Luna, struck at the scattered enemy. Without central command, the Dominion fleet couldn't coordinate their superior numbers. They fought as individuals instead of as a unified force. The battle raged for hours, but this time humanity wasn't alone. 3 Dominion ships crewed by Velarin who'd been waiting for this moment turned their weapons on their former allies. It wasn't much, but it was a start. By the time the fighting ended, the Dominion had lost another 600 ships. More importantly, they'd lost their command structure and their reputation for invincibility. The survivors retreated to the outer solar system to regroup, but the damage was done. The message was spreading, and with it, rebellion. Agent Minho Kang watched all of this from a neutral trading station on the edge of Dominion space. He'd been deep undercover for 2 years, gathering intelligence. Now he sent everything he'd learned back to Earth. "The Dominion Council is in emergency session," his message reported. "They're losing control. 47 species have declared independence. The Council is split between those who want to negotiate and those who want to crush the rebellions with overwhelming force." Jiwan read his report in the command center. Around her, exhausted people celebrated their victory, but she knew it wasn't over. "They'll be back," she said to General Taeyang Kwan. "The Dominion can't let us win. If we survive, it proves they can be beaten. Every enslaved species in the galaxy will rise up. So what do we do? Taeyang asked. We prepare for the next wave, and we help the species that are rebelling. If the Dominion is fighting on 100 fronts, they can't focus everything on us. Ambassador Sora Lim, who'd taken over diplomatic duties after Minji's message went viral, agreed. I've been contacted by 17 different species. They want help. Weapons, training, intelligence. They're willing to fight, but they need support. President Yuna Bayek looked at them all. The president had aged years in the past week. The weight of 300,000 dead from Mars still haunted her eyes. If we help these rebellions, we're committing to a galactic war. We'll be making enemies of everyone still loyal to the Dominion. We already did that when we fought back, Ji-won pointed out. The difference is now we have potential allies. We can't win this alone, but together maybe we have a chance. The decision was made. Earth would share its technology and knowledge with any species fighting for freedom. Dr. Soman Choi's quantum weapons, Jinwoo's cyber warfare techniques, everything humanity had learned about fighting the Dominion. But there was a problem. The Dominion wasn't going to let this stand. Deep in their territory at the council chamber, a decision was being made. Chancellor Kilrath, leader of the Galactic Council, looked at his fellow councilors. The chamber was in chaos. Reports of uprisings came in every hour. The perfect order they'd maintained for 12,000 years was collapsing. We must make an example, Warlord Krixan demanded. He was the hardliner among the council, believing only in strength and domination. Send the entire war fleet to Earth. Exterminate the humans completely. Show the galaxy what happens to those who resist. That will only create more martyrs, Councillor Zenthar argued. He was one of the few progressive voices in the council. The humans have won the moral argument. Every species saw our crimes. If we exterminate them now, we prove everything they said about us. Then what do you suggest? Kilrath asked tiredly. Negotiate. Offer them terms. Show that the Dominion can be reasonable. Krixan slammed his fist on the table. Negotiate. With primitives who killed War Master Thexnar? Never! They must be destroyed! The council argued for hours. Finally, a vote was called. It was close, but the hardliners won. Krixan was given command of the entire Dominion war fleet, 5,000 warships. His orders were simple: destroy Earth completely. On Earth, long-range sensors detected the massive fleet gathering. It would take them 3 weeks to reach the solar system. 3 weeks to prepare for what might be humanity's final battle. Ji-won looked at the numbers and knew they couldn't win a direct fight. Even with their new allies, even with all their clever tactics, 5,000 warships was too many. We need a different strategy, she said. Jinwoo, who'd survived the mission to the Eternal Ascendancy, spoke up. When I was on that flagship, I learned something about their fleet coordination. They rely heavily on their AI systems. What if we don't fight them directly? What if we turn their own fleet against them? Explain, Ji-won ordered. The virus I uploaded, it didn't just broadcast our message. It's still in their systems, dormant. I can activate it remotely if I can get close enough to their fleet. It could cause complete system failures across hundreds of ships simultaneously. How close? Within their formation. Someone would need to infiltrate the fleet and activate the virus from inside. The room fell silent. They'd just done an infiltration mission, and it had cost them Captain Hyun and 30 others. Doing it again seemed like suicide. But Admiral Junho Choi, who'd taken command of the fleet after the previous losses, stepped forward. I'll do it, he said. My ship took damage in the last battle. We're not at full combat capability anyway. Better to use us for this than waste us in direct combat. Hana, who'd also survived the last mission, stood up. I'll go too. I didn't get to finish what we started. Let me finish it now, others volunteered. Survivors from the Mars bombardment, soldiers who'd lost friends in the battles, civilians who'd lost families. They all wanted to strike back at the empire that had taken so much from them. Within days, they had a plan. It was desperate, probably doomed to fail, but it was a chance. And chances were all humanity had ever needed. As they prepared, Minji's message continued spreading across the galaxy. More species joined the rebellion. The Dominion was fracturing, but it wasn't broken yet. The final battle was coming. Earth would either survive or fall. But whatever happened, humanity had already won something important. They'd proven that the Dominion could be beaten. They'd shown the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for. Absolutely insane, he said. I love it. How do we start? As they began planning, none of them noticed the retaliation came 36 hours after humanity's first attack. It came with a fury that shook the solar system. War Master Thexnar arrived with 500 additional warships. He was a legend among the Dominion forces. Known for crushing rebellions with absolute ruthlessness, his reputation was built on the ashes of 7 species who had dared to resist. Now he came for humanity. Thexnar's first order was simple: destroy their colonies. Show them the price of defiance. The Dominion fleet moved toward Mars, where 500,000 humans lived in underground cities. Fleet Admiral Daehan Yu commanded the defense, but he had only 30 ships against 200. All civilian transports begin evacuation immediately, Daehan ordered. Military vessels form defensive screen Alpha. We hold them as long as possible. On Mars, alarms blared through the colony tunnels. Hana Shin, a civilian coordinator, guided thousands of people toward evacuation shelters. Children cried, parents grabbed what they could carry, and everyone moved with the desperate urgency of people who knew death was coming. Stay calm. Stay together, Hana called out, though her own heart pounded with terror. The military is protecting us. We have time. But they didn't have enough time. The Dominion warships opened fire from extreme range. Energy beams rained down on Mars, striking the surface installations first. Power generators exploded. Communication arrays melted. The protective domes covering surface structures cracked and shattered. Daehan's ships fought desperately, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. One by one, human warships fell. The Admiral watched his fleet being destroyed and made the hardest decision of his life. All ships retreat to secondary positions. We can't stop them here. But sir, the evacuation isn't complete, his first officer protested. I know. Daehan's voice was heavy with grief. But if we stay, we die for nothing. Fall back. That's an order. The surviving human ships pulled away. Dominion vessels began orbital bombardment of Mars. They targeted the underground cities using penetrating weapons designed to reach deep into the planet's crust. Hana felt the ground shake. Dust fell from the tunnel ceiling. Another explosion, closer this time. She herded the last group of civilians into the deep shelters, sections of the colony built to withstand almost anything. Seal the doors, she shouted. The massive blast doors began closing. Hana looked back at the tunnel behind her. Somewhere back there, dozens of people were still running, still trying to reach safety. She could see them in the distance, desperate faces in the emergency lighting. The doors continued closing. Hana made her choice. She ran back into the tunnel. Come on! Move faster! She grabbed a child who'd fallen, pulled an elderly man to his feet, pushed everyone forward. The doors were almost closed. 20 meters. 10 meters. The ground shook again, harder. Part of the tunnel ceiling collapsed behind them. 5 meters. They weren't going to make it. Then someone grabbed Hana from the other side of the door, strong hands pulling her through. The others tumbled through after her. The doors sealed with a final terrible boom. They'd saved 40 people. Behind those doors, in the sections that weren't sealed in time, 300,000 people died when the Dominion bombardment collapsed the tunnels. On Earth, in the command center, Jiwan watched the casualty reports come in. 300,000 dead on Mars. 50,000 more on Luna when the moon base was hit. Countless others in the orbital stations and smaller colonies. The room was silent except for the soft sounds of people crying. These weren't just numbers on a screen. These were parents, children, friends, and lovers. These were people who'd trusted her plan, who'd believed that fighting back was worth the risk. We did this, someone said. If we'd surrendered, they'd still be alive. Jiwan felt the words like a knife in her chest. But before she could respond, Captain Hyun spoke up. He'd returned from the battle at Mars, his ship barely functional. No, Hyun said firmly. The Dominion did this. They chose to kill civilians instead of fighting our military. They chose to murder people who couldn't defend themselves. This is who they are. This is what we're fighting against, but we provoked them, another voice argued. We knew they'd retaliate. They were always going to do this, Minji said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. The ambassador's face was pale, but her voice was steady. I've been reviewing the intelligence from the species that contacted me. Every world the Dominion conquered, they started with bombardment. They kill millions just to break the spirit of resistance. They would have done this whether we fought or not. The only difference is that by fighting, we have a chance to stop them. Sub-Commander Yuri Nam, an intelligence officer, pulled up historical data. Ambassador Park is correct. The Dominion strategy is always the same. First, they bomb civilian targets. Then they offer surrender terms again. If accepted, The conquered species lives under their rule. If refused, they continue the extermination. So what do we do? President Yuna asked. She looked older than she had days ago, the weight of leadership crushing her. Jiwan forced herself to stand straight, to push down the grief and guilt. She could break down later. Right now, people needed a leader. We continue the plan. We find the eternal ascendancy and we destroy it. It's the only way to stop this. How? General Taeyang Quan asked. The flagship isn't in our system. We don't even know where it is. I know where it is. The voice came from the communication console, one of Minji's alien contacts, a Velaran captain who'd been secretly helping them. The eternal ascendancy is 3 days away. It's bringing another 1,000 warships. When it arrives, Thexanar plans to bombard Earth itself. The room fell silent at this news. 1,000 more warships. Earth would be reduced to rubble. 3 days, Jiwan said. Then we have 3 days to put together a strike team, get them onto that flagship, and destroy it before it reaches Earth. That's impossible, someone said. Everything we've done so far has been impossible, Captain Hyun replied. We're still here. We can do this. I'll lead the team, Hyun continued. My ship is damaged anyway. Better to use what's left of it for this mission. Jiwan nodded. You'll need specialists. Jinwoo for the cyber attack. Commander Yoonji-han's Special Forces team for security. And Engineer Sunho Park to modify a ship to look like a Dominion vessel. Over the next 2 days, they worked without rest. Sunho performed miracles, taking a captured Dominion shuttle and modifying it to emit the right electronic signatures. Jinwoo prepared an updated version of the Whisper virus. Yoonji trained a strike team of 50 people in the layout of Dominion ships, based on intelligence from their alien contacts. Hana, who'd survived the Mars bombardment, volunteered for the mission. When asked why, she simply said, I need to do something, anything. I can't just sit here while more people die. They accepted her. They accepted anyone willing to go on what everyone knew was a one-way mission. On the 3rd day, the Eternal Ascendancy entered the outer solar system. It was massive, 10 times larger than any ship humanity had ever built. It bristled with weapons and was surrounded by its escort fleet. The strike team boarded their disguised shuttle. Captain Hyun looked at his 50 volunteers. They ranged from experienced soldiers to civilians like Hana who'd simply refused to let fear stop them. Most of us won't come back, Hyun said honestly. But what we do today will change everything. Earth will remember us, the galaxy will remember us, and maybe, just maybe, we'll give humanity the chance to survive. They launched from a hidden position near Uranus, far from where the Dominion expected any activity. Using the intelligence provided by their alien contacts, they knew the Eternal Ascendancy's security protocols. They knew the shift changes, the patrol patterns, and the access codes. The shuttle approached the massive flagship. Sunho's modifications worked perfectly. When challenged, they transmitted the correct identification codes. The Dominion saw one of their own shuttles returning from a scouting mission. They were allowed to dock. Inside the flagship, Hyun led the team through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ship housed 50,000 crew members from dozens of different species. They passed maintenance workers, soldiers, and administrators, all going about their duties without suspecting anything. Jinwoo guided them using the ship's own computer system. The central AI core is 17 levels down. That's where I need to upload the virus. They moved quickly but carefully. Yoonji's Special Forces training paid off as they avoided patrols and security checkpoints. Twice they had to hide when large groups passed. Once they had to quietly disable 2 guards who saw something suspicious. They were 10 levels down when alarms began sounding. They found the guards, Yoonji said. We're blown! Run! The team sprinted through the corridors. Behind them, security forces mobilized. Ahead, blast doors began closing. They slid under one just as it sealed, cutting them off from their pursuers temporarily, but also cutting them off from escape. Keep moving, Hyun ordered. We're committed now. Get to the AI core. They fought their way through the next 7 levels. The strike team took casualties. Hana watched people she'd trained with for 2 days die beside her, but they kept pushing forward. Finally, they reached the AI core. It was a massive chamber filled with crystalline computing systems that pulse. 48 hours remained on the Dominion's ultimatum. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Soman Choi stared at the code scrolling across her screens. The virus was ready. 3 years of work and it was finally ready. Dr. Choi, we have a problem. Jinwoo Song, her best cyber warfare specialist, rushed into the lab. At 26, he was the youngest member of her team and also the most brilliant. I've been analyzing the Dominion communication protocols. They're using quantum encryption. Soman felt her heart sink. Can you break it? Already did, Jinwoo grinned. Took me 43 hours, but I found a backdoor. The Dominion has been using the same encryption system for 5,000 years. They never updated it because no one ever challenged them. It's like they're using the same password for everything. Show me. Jinwoo pulled up the data on the main screen. Streams of alien communications filled the display. Fleet movements, supply lines, command hierarchies, everything. Soman couldn't believe what she was seeing. This is incredible. Can you upload our virus through this? Yes, but there's something else you need to see. Jinwoo highlighted specific communications. The fleet commander, Vexthor, he's been sending reports back to the Dominion Council. According to his messages, this is routine. They've done this exact same invasion strategy 847 times. Same ships, same ultimatum, same timeline. They don't even scout properly because no one ever fights back. Soman read through the translations. Vexthor's messages were full of bored confidence. He talked about humanity the way someone might talk about an annoying household chore, something tedious that had to be done, but nothing interesting or challenging. They think we're already beaten, Somin said quietly, which means they won't see our attack coming. Jinwoo pulled up more data. I've mapped their entire fleet structure. The command ships are in the center, surrounded by protective layers of smaller vessels. They're not even running battle-ready shields. They're using minimal power configurations, like they're just waiting for us to give up. Soman immediately contacted Jiwon. Within minutes, the commander was on the secure channel. We have everything, Soman reported. Fleet positions, communication channels, and a way to deliver the virus. But we need a distraction. Something to make them focus on the wrong thing while we strike. I'll give you your distraction, Jiwon said. Captain Hyun is ready. On the Indomitable, Captain Hyun Lee addressed his crew. Around him, the flagship's bridge buzzed with activity. Men and women prepared for battle, their faces showing fear and determination in equal measure. In 1 hour, we're going to do something stupid, Hyun said. We're going to charge directly at their fleet with every ship we have. We're going to make them think this is humanity's last desperate attack. We're going to make them think we're finished. Sir will be slaughtered, his first officer said. We'll take heavy damage, yes, Hyun agreed. But we won't be alone. While we keep them busy, the real attack begins. Trust the plan. Trust each other. And remember why we're doing this. He looked at the faces around him, young and old, different backgrounds, different nations, different beliefs, but all human, all free, all willing to fight for that freedom. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. Let's go. The human fleet, 150 warships, began moving toward the alien armada. It looked suicidal. It was supposed to look suicidal. On Vexthor's command ship, alarms began sounding. The Dominar watched the human ships approaching and felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Surprise. They're actually attacking? He said. How primitive. How pointless. Should we deploy the full fleet? His second officer asked. No need. Send 300 ships to meet them. That's more than enough to crush this pathetic resistance. The humans are making this easy for us. They're gathering in one place to be destroyed. The Dominion vessels moved to intercept. Their weapons powered up. The trap was set, or so Vexthor thought. But while 300 Dominion warships focused on the approaching human fleet, something else was happening. In orbit around Mars, around Earth's moon, near Jupiter, and throughout the solar system, hidden weapons came online. Project Ghostlight activated. 90 quantum entangled weapons platforms, invisible to the Dominion sensors, locked onto their targets. Each platform had been positioned over 3 years, moved into place so slowly and quietly that no one noticed. Each one carried weapons powerful enough to cripple a Dominion warship. In the command center, Jiwon watched the countdown. 10 seconds, 5 seconds. She looked at General Taiyang Quan, who nodded. Fire, Jiwon said. Light filled space. The quantum platforms unleashed their payloads. Beams of concentrated energy, invisible until they struck, slashed across the void. They hit the Dominion command ships, the vessels that Vexthor had left undefended in the center of his fleet. Explosions bloomed in the darkness. Dominion shields running at minimal power collapsed instantly, hull plating vaporized. Entire ships broke apart. On his command ship, Vexthor watched his tactical display in horror. 12 command vessels gone in seconds. 367 other ships damaged or destroyed. How? Where had the attack come from? Find the source, he screamed. But the quantum platforms were already repositioning, their entanglement properties allowing them to effectively teleport small distances. By the time Dominion sensors located where the shots came from, the platforms were elsewhere, firing again. Captain Hyon saw the explosions and smiled. Now all ships break formation. Execute attack pattern Delta. The human fleet scattered, each ship moving in unpredictable patterns. The Dominion vessels pursuing them suddenly found their prey impossible to track. Confusion spread through alien ranks. At that moment, Jinwoo made his move. Using the back door he'd found in the Dominion communications, he unleashed the Whisper virus. It spread through their network like fire through dry grass, copying itself, adapting, infecting every system it touched. Dominion ships began experiencing technical failures. Weapons misfired, shields flickered. Communications broke down. The virus didn't destroy the ships, but it made them vulnerable, confused and blind. Meanwhile, Ambassador Minji Park was conducting a different kind of warfare. Using the intelligence Jinwoo had gathered, she identified ships crewed by subjugated species. She sent them targeted messages encrypted and hidden within normal space noise. You don't have to serve them. Humanity fights for freedom. Join us or stay neutral. We'll remember who helped us. On a Dominion cruiser crewed by a species called the Velarin, the message was received. The ship's captain, forced into service 2 generations ago, read the words and felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. He didn't join the humans. Not yet. That would be suicide. But he delayed his ship's response time. He reported technical difficulties that didn't exist. He made small mistakes that helped the humans without being obvious treason, and he wasn't alone. Throughout the fleet, similar small acts of rebellion began occurring. Nothing big enough to be noticed individually, but together they added up. The battle raged for 3 hours. When it ended, the Dominion fleet had lost 357 ships. The human fleet lost 32. The numbers still favored the aliens, but the impossible had happened. Humanity had hurt them. Vexthor stared at his losses in disbelief. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The humans should have surrendered. They should have been terrified. Instead, they'd struck like experienced warriors, with strategy and coordination he'd only seen from advanced species. He sent an immediate message to the Dominion Council. The humans are not primitive. They're dangerous. Send reinforcements, but the message never arrived. The Whisper virus had infected the communication systems too deeply. His words were lost in digital chaos. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. They'd struck back against an empire that ruled the galaxy. They'd survived the first engagement. But Ji-won didn't celebrate. She studied the battle reports and knew the truth. They'd surprised the Dominion once. They wouldn't be surprised again. The real war was just beginning. How long until they adapt to our tactics? She asked General Kwan. Days. Maybe hours if they're smart. Ji-won nodded. Then we need to keep adapting faster than them. Somin, can you disrupt their communications again? Not the same way. They'll patch the backdoor Jinwoo found. But I have other ideas. Good, Captain Hyun, damage report. The Indomitable took heavy hits, but we're operational. Morale is high. The crew knows we can actually hurt these invaders. Ambassador Park, any responses to your messages? Minji nodded. 15 ships have made contact discreetly. They won't openly rebel, but they're willing to share information. One captain told me something interesting. The Dominion has a weakness. Their entire fleet coordination runs through their flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Ascendancy. It's not in our system yet, but it's coming. Ji-won felt a plan forming. A crazy, impossible plan. If we could destroy that flagship, what would happen? According to my source, the fleet would lose central coordination. Each ship would have to operate independently. It would create chaos. Then that's our target. Ji-won looked at the faces around her. We're going to find the Eternal Ascendancy and we're going to destroy it. Everyone stared at her in silence. Finally, Captain Hyun laughed. The stars above Earth had never looked so threatening. Commander Ji-won Kim stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the massive holographic display that showed the solar system. Red dots filled the screen, each one representing an alien warship. There were thousands of them. It had been 3 days since humanity detected the fleet near Mars. 3 days since Earth's hopes of peaceful first contact were shattered. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Dominion, and they had not come to make friends. Jiwon watched as Ambassador Minji Park stepped forward to receive the transmission. The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern and skin that looked like polished obsidian. This was Dominar Vexthor, leader of the invasion fleet. Humans of Earth. The alien's voice came through the translators, cold and mechanical. The Galactic Dominion has governed this galaxy for 12,000 years. We have brought order to 847 species. Now it is your turn. Minji kept her face calm, but Jiwon could see her hands trembling slightly. We welcome dialogue with the Dominion. Perhaps we can discuss terms of mutual cooperation. Vexthor made a sound that might have been laughter. There are no negotiations. You will surrender within 72 hours. You will accept our laws, pay tribute of 30% of your resources annually, and submit to Dominion authority. This is how it has always been. This is how it will be for you. And if we refuse? Minji asked quietly. Then we will demonstrate why no species has ever successfully refused us. The screen showed images of destroyed planets, burning cities, and extinct civilizations. We have the power to turn your world to ash. We have done it before. We will do it again if necessary. The transmission ended. The command center fell silent. Jiwon looked around at the faces of Earth's leaders, all present via hologram. President Unibayek of the United Earth Government spoke first. How many ships do they have? 3,000 warships, Captain Hyun Lee reported. He commanded Earth's flagship, the Indomitable. Each one is larger than our biggest carrier. Their technology is at least a century ahead of ours, maybe more. Can we fight them? President Baek asked. General Taeyang Kwan shook his head. In a direct confrontation, we would last maybe 3 hours. They could destroy every city on Earth in half a day. Then we have no choice but to surrender, said one of the council members. No. Jiwon's voice cut through the murmurs. Everyone turned to look at her. We have choices. We always have choices. Commander Kim, I respect your spirit, but we must be realistic, General Kwan said gently. This is an extinction-level threat. We've faced extinction before, Jiwon replied. She pulled up historical data on the screens. Climate crisis of the 2050s, nuclear tensions of the 2080s, the asteroid of 2167. Every time everyone said we had no choice but to accept our fate, and every time we found another way. Minji stepped closer to Jiwon. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about the last 5 years, Jiwon said. 5 years ago, we detected the first alien signals. We knew someone was out there. And some of us decided to prepare. She entered a command code. New data flooded the screens. Classified files that most people in the room had never seen. President Bayek leaned forward, her eyes widening. Project Ghostlight, Jiwon explained. A network of quantum-entangled weapons satellites positioned throughout the solar system. Completely undetectable by conventional sensors. We've been building them for 3 years. Project Prometheus, she continued. Relativistic kinetic weapons. Projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The impact energy of a single projectile equals a nuclear warhead. And Project Whisper, she finished. A computer virus designed to infiltrate and disrupt alien communication systems. Dr. Somin Choi and her team have been working on it since we first intercepted alien transmissions. The room erupted in shocked voices. General Kwan stared at the data. How did you hide this from us? Black budget projects, Jiwon said. Approved by a secret committee after the first alien signals were detected. We hoped we'd never need them. We prayed first contact would be peaceful, but we prepared for the worst. Even with these weapons, we're still outnumbered, Captain Hyun pointed out. Yes, Jiwon agreed. But consider this. The Dominion said no species has ever successfully refused them. That means they've never faced real resistance. They've grown comfortable, complacent. They expect us to surrender like everyone else. Minji nodded slowly. They see us as primitives. They think we'll be terrified into submission. Exactly, Jiwon said. That's our advantage. They don't know what we're capable of, because they've never bothered to find out. They're so sure of their superiority that they haven't even scouted our defenses properly. President Bayek stood up. Commander Kim, if we do this, if we fight, many people will die. Maybe everyone. Are you prepared to accept that responsibility? Jiwon met her gaze steadily. Madam President, if we surrender, we become slaves. Our children become slaves. Every generation after us will live under alien rule, paying tribute, following their laws, losing everything that makes us human. That's not survival. That's just a slower death. But it keeps people alive, someone argued. Does it? Jiwon pulled up more images from the Dominion transmission. Look at these worlds they conquered. Look at how they live, poverty, oppression. Any species that resists is crushed. Any individual that speaks out disappears. They call it order. I call it a prison. The room fell silent again. Finally, Captain Hyun spoke. My crew and I will follow whatever decision you make. But if we're voting, I say we fight. Better to die free than live as slaves. One by one, others voiced their agreement. Not everyone, some still advocated for surrender, but the majority stood with Jiwon. President Bayek looked at them all, then turned to Minji. Ambassador Park, what's your opinion? Minji thought for a long moment. I believe in diplomacy. I believe in peace. But I also believe in freedom. If we surrender without even trying to resist, we're telling the universe that humanity has no spine. We're saying that we value survival over everything else. I can't accept that. President Bayek nodded. Then it's decided, we fight. Commander Kim, you have operational authority. Do whatever you need to do. Jiwon felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She had just condemned millions to war. But she had also given humanity a chance, however slim, to remain free. We have 72 hours, she said. Let's make them count. Captain Hyun, prepare the fleet for a diversionary attack. General Kwan, move all military assets to defensive positions. Ambassador Park, I need you to do something that might sound crazy. What? Minji asked. Try to make contact with other species in the Dominion. Find out if any of them hate their masters as much as we're going to. We might not be able to beat the Dominion alone, but if we can find allies among their subjects, we might have a chance. Minji smiled. Now that's the kind of diplomacy I can support. As the meeting ended and everyone rushed to their duties, Jiwon looked back at the display showing the alien fleet. 3,000 warships against humanity's few hundred. Impossible odds. But humanity had always specialized in doing the impossible. The 72-hour countdown had begun. In 3 days, Earth would either be free or destroyed. There would be no middle ground. Jiwon allowed herself one moment of doubt, one moment of fear. Then she pushed it away and got to work. There was too much to do and too little time. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity didn't surrender. They'd inspired hope in species that had forgotten what hope felt like. The cost had been terrible. Thwarlord Crixon stood on the bridge of his personal dreadnought, the Eternal Fist, and watched his armada gather. 5,000 warships, the largest fleet the Dominion had assembled in 3,000 years. Every available vessel pulled from garrison duty across the galaxy. It was magnificent. It was overwhelming. And it would crush the human resistance completely. Sir, we're ready to depart, his first officer reported. Then let us end this rebellion once and for all, Crixon said. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. But as the fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, something was happening elsewhere in the galaxy. The fractures that had begun with humanity's message were spreading wider. On the Velaran homeworld, the protests had turned into full revolution. The planetary government, which had been a Dominion puppet for 3 generations, was overthrown in a single day. The new leaders immediately declared independence and asked Earth for help. Sora Lim, Earth's ambassador to the newly free worlds, stood before the Velaran assembly and made a promise. Humanity will support your independence. We'll share our technology and stand with you against Dominion retaliation. You're not alone anymore. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. The Carathian threw off their chains. The Zethrosians seized control of their mining operations. The Palaran, a peaceful species that had been forced into military service, laid down their weapons and refused to fight. 47 species had declared independence within the first week. By the 3rd week, that number had grown to 93. Nearly 1/10 of the Dominion was in open rebellion, and they were all looking to Earth for leadership. President Yuna Bayek addressed this new alliance via hologram, speaking to representatives from dozens of species. We didn't start this fight to build an empire of our own. We started it because we believe every species deserves freedom. Together, we're stronger than apart. Together, we can end the Dominion's tyranny forever. The Free Systems Alliance was born in that moment. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't unified, but it was real. And it had teeth. Dr. Soman Choi worked around the clock sharing quantum weapons technology with allied species. Engineer Sunho Park helped them retrofit their ships with better weapons and shields. Jinwoo trained alien cyber warfare specialists in his techniques, but sharing technology went both ways. The Velaran had advanced shield generators. The Karathian understood energy systems better than humans. The Peleran, despite being forced into military service, had learned valuable tactical knowledge. Humanity grew stronger by sharing knowledge, and so did their allies. Meanwhile, Chancellor Kilreth watched his empire collapse. Every day brought news of another world declaring independence. The Dominion Council was paralyzed by infighting between hardliners like Crixon and progressives like Zenthar. We must negotiate, Zenthar argued again. The humans have proven they'll fight to the death. And now they have allies. If we continue this war, we'll destroy ourselves. Never, Crixon's hologram snarled. He was already en route to Earth with his fleet. These rebels must be crushed. Once we destroy Earth, the others will lose hope and surrender. Or they'll fight harder, Zenthar countered. You're not thinking strategically. You're thinking with pride and anger. I'm thinking about preserving the Dominion. Kilreth listened to them argue and felt very old. He'd led the council for 200 years, maintaining the order his predecessors had built. Now it was all falling apart because of one primitive species that refused to submit. Part of him hated humanity for destroying everything he'd worked for. But another part, a part he didn't want to admit existed, admired them. They'd done what seemed impossible. They'd said no to the entire galaxy and made it stick. The vote has been cast, Kilreth said tiredly. Crixon has his fleet and his orders. We'll see if crushing Earth restores order or creates more chaos. On Earth, long-range sensors tracked Crixon's approaching fleet. Admiral Junho Choi studied the tactical displays with Ji-won and General Taeyang Kwon. The numbers were worse than they'd feared. 5,000 warships, Junho said quietly. Even with our allies, we can field maybe 800 ships. They outnumber us 6-1. What about the virus? Ji-won asked Jinwoo. It's ready, but I need to be inside their formation to activate it effectively. The signal won't penetrate their shields from long range. So we need someone to get close, Taeyang said. Very close. Essentially suicide. Junho nodded. My ship, the Defiant, will do it. We're volunteers, all of us. We know what this means, Hana, standing nearby, spoke up. I'm coming too. I've got nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Over the next week, as Crixon's fleet approached, the Free Systems Alliance prepared. Allied warships positioned themselves throughout the solar system. Earth's quantum weapons platforms, rebuilt after the earlier battles, locked onto their firing coordinates. Evacuation shelters on Earth and Mars filled with civilians hoping to survive what was coming. And in the middle of it all, ordinary people went about their lives with quiet courage. They knew death might come, but they refused to spend their last days in fear. The fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Crixon looked at the human solar system and smiled. Begin the bombardment. Target Earth first. I want to see their homeworld burn. The Dominion fleet moved forward, but before they could fire, 800 Allied warships emerged from hiding positions behind moons, asteroids, and gas giant planets. The Free Systems Alliance had learned from humanity's tactics. They'd learned to use surprise. The battle began. It was chaos on a scale never seen before. Thousands of ships exchanging fire in the dark between worlds. The quantum platforms opened up, taking out dozens of Dominion vessels in the first minutes. Allied ships fought with desperate courage, knowing they were outnumbered but refusing to back down. Junho guided the Defiant through the massive battle, dodging fire from all directions. His goal was simple: get to the center of the Dominion formation where Crixon's dreadnought commanded the fleet. Sir, shields at 40%, his first officer reported. Keep going, we're almost there. Behind them, Earth's defense forces fought with everything they had, ships commanded by people like Admiral Daehan Yu, who'd survived Mars and now fought for revenge. Pilots barely out of training who flew with the skill of veterans. Civilian volunteers manning weapons stations on converted cargo ships, and they weren't alone. Velaran cruisers fought alongside human destroyers. Carithian fighters covered Allied bombers. Peleran medical ships rescued wounded from both sides. The Free Systems Alliance was proving itself in fire and blood, but the Dominion had numbers. For every one of their ships destroyed, they had 5 more. Slowly, terribly, the Allied forces were being pushed back. "We're losing," Taeyang said in the command center. "At this rate, they'll break through to Earth within hours." "Then Junho better work fast," Jiwon replied, watching the Defiance marker on her tactical display. The Defiant penetrated deeper into the Dominion formation. Juno's crew fought off interceptors while Jinwoo prepared to activate the virus. They were close now, close enough to see Crixon's massive dreadnought. "Now," Junho ordered. Jinwoo activated the virus. The dormant code that had been hiding in Dominion systems for weeks suddenly came to life. It spread through the fleet's communication network like wildfire, jumping from ship to ship faster than any defense could stop it. Dominion warships began malfunctioning. Weapons stopped firing, shields flickered and died. Navigation systems failed. Engineering reported critical failures. Entire vessels went dark. On the Eternal Fist, Crixon watched his fleet fall apart and finally understood. The humans hadn't just been fighting with weapons. They'd been fighting with information, with technology, with ideas that infected and corrupted everything the Dominion relied on. Communications, damage report. "Sir, we can't communicate with the fleet. The virus has taken over all our systems." "Then fire manually." "Override everything." "We end this now." The Eternal Fist's weapons powered up, targeting Earth directly, but Junho saw what Crixon was doing. The Defiant turned and accelerated directly at the massive dreadnought. "All power to forward shields," Junho ordered. "Ram them." "Sir, that's suicide, I know." "Brace for impact." The Defiant, moving at full speed, slammed into the Eternal Fist shield. The impact was catastrophic. The Defiant's shields collapsed, then its hull crumpled, but its momentum carried it through, the dying ship smashing into the dreadnought's side. Both vessels exploded in a flash of light. Admiral Junho Choi died instantly, along with his entire crew. But his sacrifice saved Earth. The Eternal Fist, the command ship coordinating what remained of the Dominion offensive, was destroyed. Without Crixon's leadership, without communications, with their systems failing all around them, the Dominion fleet broke. Some ships tried to retreat. Others simply drifted, powerless. A few kept fighting, but they were isolated and quickly overwhelmed. Hana, who'd transferred to another ship at the last moment when there wasn't room for her on the Defiant, watched Junho's sacrifice and felt tears streaming down her face. Another hero dead, another price paid for freedom, but this time it was enough. The Battle of Earth's orbit ended after 7 hours. The Allied forces had lost 342 ships, but the